Hello, and welcome back to the Cavalier's Tale. So, I'm back with another video, which means we have a new thing. To have a look at and explore and find out what it is. I'm sure you can tell by the thumbnail and the thing that you're staring at right now. It is the Dreadfleet. What is Dreadfleet? It is the supplement for the Supplemental Army for Dread Elves, which I'm sure some of you will have guessed, because I'm sure you can make that connection. So I was sent this file last night while I was at my gaming club, so I didn't have a look at it then. So this is the first time I'm going to be properly having a look at it, so I figured might be nice to explore it together, find out what it's all about. I don't really know anything about Dread Elves, so it's kind of just going to be less of a review and more reading through it and going, ooh! And I thought that might be entertaining and slightly more interesting than me trying to learn Dread Elves. So let's go and take a look. So first of all, the Supplement Army books get a lovely front cover that the Slim books do not, unfortunately, or the rest of the Army books do not, which is very unfortunate because they are all fantastic. Though, unfortunately, the one for Dreadfleet and the one for, what was the last one? The Airman supplement for VS use AI art, which is plagiarism. There's not really a way around it. So that's a shame. It looks cool, but it's not art. It's just stolen AI stuff, which sucks, and it's a shame because the rest of the art done for the other supplements are all fantastic. Cool. So let's move on and have a look at the rest of the book. Yeah. So we've got the funky little symbol that we've already seen. The sections we're going to get to. So and of course the other thing about these supplement books is they've all got little snippets of fluff in there, just like scattered in amongst, there's a description for each unit. There are little bits at the start of the book and the end, giving a more general tale of what the army's about, which is really cool. And I really wish the Slim books and the rest of the books had them in. Anyway, so army specific rules shrouded by mist. Applying the following rules during the first game turn. For shooting attacks made against units that are more than 12 inches away, all units are considered to be in soft cover, so soft cover for everything that's over 12 inches away in the first turn. And minimise charge rolls unless you've got Coastal Predator for when you're charging something more than 12 inches away, which I don't think it's possible to get closer than 12 inches for a start charge. I think in theory the closest you can get is 12 and a fraction from a scouting unit that isn't the first player turn. If you're taking the second player turn in the first game turn, I think that unit can charge. Or if you've got a vanguarding unit that vanguards up to 12 and a fraction away, then you can charge in the second player turn of the first game turn. So if you haven't gone first or whatever. And in those very specific cases, or if you're playing refused flank where you're 18 inches away, you've got minimized charge roll. So no charges and no shooting in the first turn, basically. Very simply. Universal or to army model rules, barbed nets. This is identical to the Orcs and Goblins Slim book netted that Cave Goblins used to have. So if you're an Orcs and Goblins player, let us know what you think about Dreadfleet and Dread Elves stealing your cool stuff. But there you go. Coastal Predator, which I'm going to assume is exactly the same as in the Dread Elf book. I'm not going to go and check because we don't have time for that. Nobody has time for that. But I would assume it's the same sort of thing. So if you know what that does, you'll know what this does. Terrors of the Deep is a cap on presumably Krakens and things. Well, I suppose I do. I suppose technically people can play 9th Age at points values other than 4,500 points, which makes sense for this kind of cap over a simple 0 to 3. But it makes sense. People might play 9th Age at other points values, so you've got to account for that. So that's why that's in there. That's a list building thing and nothing more complicated than that. So if you're an opponent, you don't need to worry about it. Ruthless efficiency. We know what that does. That's +1 to wound in the first round of combat. Sea Serpent's Hide. I don't know what's the difference about this and Kraken's Hide. I don't know whether it's just called something different because it's a supplement, which seems daft, but maybe there's something specific. Maybe Kraken's Hide give. Okay, this one I probably want to have a look at. What is Kraken's Hide in a Dread Elf book? Kraken's Hide. Oh, it also gives you Coastal Predator. So yes, I don't know why. I mean, you know, maybe we'll find out. Presumably, there's a good reason for it. Where's it gone? There it is. And then the repeater handbow, which presumably also is the same. And then the hereditary spell, Tempest of the Storm Witch, 6 and 7 casting value with this boosted on a 7. It's range 18 augment for a duration of 1 turn. Target may immediately perform a 12-inch magical move and loses scoring until the start of the next friendly magic phase. In addition, the target gains Coastal Predator. So, crucially, you don't gain light troops in that movement. So, you know, if you're a block of infantry, if presumably this army does have blocks, otherwise it wouldn't have scoring, you can't move like 12 inches sideways. You'll have to do a proper movement. But if you're something like a single model, or if you've already got light troops, then you can use that more funkily, like a Raven's Wing. So that's cool. And then it hands out Coastal Predator. I'm surprised to see that not everything in the book has Coastal Predator, but presumably there's a couple of exceptions. That's the word we're looking for. Which would give hard target, I guess. I imagine the exceptions aren't things that you want to be charging, so give Strider and hard target, I guess. We'll find out. Special items. So Lacerating Touch is a thing we've seen before. Hurricane's Fury is an enchantment for a repeater handbow. Range 18, shots 2d6. Shooting attacks of units that are hit by one or more attacks made with this weapon suffer -1 to hit until the end of the next player turn. Cool. Yeah. That's quite funky. There's a lot of shots depending. I mean, you know, you occasionally will roll 2 and go, and sometimes you roll 12. It's quite cool. For 40 points, it might be a little bit expensive, but I guess the Malice is quite good. Though if you're within 18 inches of something that's using shooting attacks, it's probably, you know, it's probably got bigger worries than, oh, I'm at -1 to shoot. So that's cool. Black Flag, which is mentioned in one of the stories up here, I think it's, yeah, there you go. What does that do? Cannot be taken by units that count towards core. The bearer's unit gains fear, and while in base contact with the bearer's unit, enemy units gain maximized fear tests. In addition, friendly units engaged in the same combat as the bearer's unit must reroll natural to wound rolls of 1. So that's pretty funky, fairly standard. Banner of Tides. 0-2 per army, infantry models only. The bearer's unit gains feigned flight. That's quite cool. Depending on what can take it. Again, you know, I've not read through the rest of this, so who knows what you could put this on. Veil of Harag. So the bearer can cast the hereditary spell as a bound spell with power level 4/8. And I think it's, well, yeah, depends on the targets that you can give it to, but 50 points feels like it might be expensive. Maybe? Yeah, depends on your targets. Stormcloak is cool. It's just an obsidian rock that also gives you hard target. And Chest of I assume that enveloping, it presumably isn't a word. Enveloping Fog. Chest of Enveloping Fog. Models on foot only, 1 use only. The player may activate this artifact at the end of any friendly movement phase and place a water terrain feature. Ooh! In contact with the bearer and at least 1 inch away from enemy units and with other terrain features. The water terrain must fit within a circle and circle with a diameter of 6 inches. I adore magical items or just abilities that either move terrain or place terrain or change terrain, anything like that. Anything to make the, you know, the field a little bit different, especially considering the number of games that are generally played on a map pack map. Anything that changes that and messes with that and fucks with that, oh, delicious. I really wish KOE had got something like that. I don't know what it would be, but, you know. Also, if you're playing with a bingo card, that's your KOE mention for this video. Yeah, that's really cool. I like that just purely for, I don't know how useful it is or how much of a problem that might cause you depending on how much coastal predator you have, but that's really cool and I really like that. And you can plonk it down and go, charge me, you're going to be not steadfast when you do so. That's cool. I like that. And enveloping. Okay, so Dread Captain. This presumably is a copy and paste of what's it called? The Dread Prince. I wish I had. Hang on. Give me 5 minutes. Ta-da! Right. Okay. So I've labelled. Hopefully, it'll be very clear. But we're going to go through it anyway, just in case. On this side, we had the Dread Elf Slim Book, or the Dread Elf Lab. That's the core book. That's the core one that you'll be able to take to any tournament, whatever, all that kind of thing. And the one on the right, as labelled above, and with the thing, and it's got Dread Captain instead of Dread Prince. That is the supplement. And we're going to go through it like that so that we can pick out the differences between the things that are in and not in the book, etc. and so forth. Cool. So we've got the Dread Captain, who presumably is this chap but copied. So he gets not Coastal Predator, but he does get Strider Water Terrain, which feels awkward, I guess. But then it gives more purpose to the hereditary spell. And I guess, yeah, I mean, you know, what does it give you? It gives you hard target, Strider, +2 advance when you're charging out of it. Yeah, you probably couldn't give that to everything, which makes sense that you can gain it through the hereditary, and that's it. Yeah, gain it through the hereditary, and not through Sea Serpent's Hide. Although, yeah, don't know, not sure. Feels strange. I guess it's understandable because otherwise that would bloat the points quite considerably. But there you go. So this guy loses 2 attacks, a point of defense, a point of offense. Loses Artistry of Death, and exchanges it for Ruthless Efficiency. He has Sea Serpent's Hide as standard, but it doesn't give him Coastal Predator. And he's also got Fear, which is quite spicy. You know, the Dread Captain. That's cool. I like the scary, spooky, piratey themes with that. And then options wise, so he can be your BSB, which a Dread Prince cannot. He can be an Obsidian General. Obsidian Admiral, and that is your general only. And that gives you an additional extra 2 attacks and an extra 100 points of special items to buy. He can buy a Repeater Handbow. He's got up to 100 points as standard, which is a bit naff, but I guess if you can boost it for your general, it's not so bad. Standard weapons as given in the Dread Elf book, and he can ride a Fleet Pegasus, an Ocean Terror, which we are yet to find out exactly what that is, and a Colossal Kraken. Ooh, you can put him on a Kraken. That's quite fun. I like that. Cool. I really like the vibe from this. Dread Elves don't scratch my itch, but Dread Elves on boats, Dread Pirates. I like the vibe so far. No Beastmaster by the looks of things. No Selection Officer, I would assume. This is a Silence Assassin, I assume. So Renegade Assassin, and you can read a little bit of fluff to find out why they're renegades instead of silent. Maybe they're noisier. So he gains Water Strider Water over the base version. The stats stay the same. He keeps Artistry of Death, which is in his profile because only he gets it in the book, presumably. Keeps Professional Courtesy, which I had assumed was in the main rulebook, but I guess not. And the rest of the rules there are the same, which is cool. Next character, we've got a Warlock Freebooter, who is a copy of the Warlock Outcast from the Dread Elf book. He gains no additional special rules. His stats stay the same. He keeps Irresistible Will and Mistrusted. He can ride a Colossal Kraken. Ooh, I wonder how many Krakens you can have in the army. How many of them you can be riding, and what an Ocean Terror is. He's got the same options, so he can't buy paired weapons and Blades of Darag. Yeah, otherwise the same. Ooh, he's got shamanism instead of evocation. That's funky. And he starts as an adept still. That's cool. I like that. And it's a seaboard exarch, who is the temple exarch, except he be boarding on a sea. Arr. He gains Mistweaver, which is the model's unit gains Coastal Predator and Devastating Charge, Lethal Strike. He loses his access to Alchemy and gains Shamanism instead. He has still got a 4+ Aegis in combat. Exchanges his heavy armor for light armor as Sea Serpent's Hide, which is exactly the same, except you can't put Ghostly Guard on that. And I think that's probably the only difference. He's a Wizard Adept as standard because he can't be your BSB. And he can't take Oracle of Doom, but he can take something called Stormcaller. The model can select its spells from all the learned spells of its chosen path and the hereditary spell. This rule overrides the spell selection connected to being a Wizard Adept. That's quite funky. So you can take this guy as an Adept of Shamanism and then take Totemic Summons from that without having to pay for a Master, which is quite nice. Or alternatively, you can take Will o' the Wisp and... what's the other one? Bewitching Glare. That's quite fun. We like that. We like a piratey exarch. Who's next? Okay, so that is the end of the character mounts, and we're going to find out what these beasties are. So Fleet Pegasus first. Let's find the regular Pegasus. The regular Pegasus is called a Blackmane Pegasus, and we gain Vanguard through this. The rest of the stats stay the same. Keep hard target. Keep devastating charge +1 strength and AP. It's obviously still harnessed. Funky. And same size. Slightly smaller than the KOE Pegasus, because the KOE Pegasus is a big boy. And a little bit of fluff there. We love the fluff. Cool, so pretty standard. Ocean Terror. What's an Ocean Terror? Tell me, book. What is an Ocean Terror? The mount and its rider count towards characters. The mount also counts towards Fleet Menagerie. He's large cavalry on a 50x50. You can take 2 of them. And Advance 8, March 14, 4 hit points. Is this essentially a Manticore? Is this what this is? It's Manticore-esque. In the same way that a Monstrous Revenant is Manticore-esque, or Orcs and Goblins Wyvern, I suppose. D3 Stomp attacks, Devastating Charge, Distracting, Poison, causes terror but no fear, which is very odd. Points to anyone who can point out in the comments below anything that causes terror but not fear. Strength 6, AP4, Strength 6, AP2 attacks with an otherwise stat line of 4 there. Res 5, hard target. It's quite funky. Very strange. Very, very odd mount. We like it. The Colossal Kraken. Yes. Okay, so how many of these can we take? We can have one of them, which is a shame. We can't have your Dread Captain and your Freebooter Warlock on there. That's a shame, but fair enough, probably. So this looks as though it's basically the same as a regular Kraken. So that's the same. Still got... Ooh, okay. It doesn't have Coastal Predator. That's very... I imagine that's a mistake. That's got to be a mistake, right? Because otherwise it doesn't have Strider Water here. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I would assume that it also keeps Coastal Predator, otherwise that's bonkers. Stats the same, it gets Terror of the Deep, so it counts towards your 0 to 3 of these per army. 7 hit points as standard, Defense 5, Res 5, Armor 3, Distracting Hard Target as standard, because the Colossal Kraken boosts your base size and gives you 2 hit points. Doesn't come with any handlers because you are you're riding it like a madman. 4 attacks, Defense 5, Strength 7, AP 3, Agi 3, Harnessed, Hatred against Large and Gigantic, and Multiple Wounds D3. Oh, what a mount. That is a mount fit for a Dread Captain, isn't it? I like that a lot. Cool, yeah. Funky. I'm liking it so far. Let's go and find out what's in core. So Corsairs, which presumably are relatively similar to... Oh, no, we want that bit. Relatively similar to regular Corsairs. Okay, so you have to pick between two kinds of Corsair. You can either have Corsair Boarders or Corsair Raiders, at which point I don't know why you wouldn't just split these into 2 units. Maybe that might be a little bit simpler, and then you could point them separately, but there you go. So the stat line stays the same. They keep lightning reflexes, ruthless efficiency. I'm having trouble with ruthless. And paired weapons. They have got light armor and sea serpent's hide instead of kraken's hide. They lose light troops and vicious slavers in exchange for these rules and strider water terrain. So you have to pick between the two of them. Both options are free. Corsair Boarders gives you heavy armor and scoring, so you get a 4-up save and paired weapons, so fairly standard dudes. And Corsair Raiders, which gives you extra support 2 and skirmisher. These are very different units. These should absolutely be separate unit entries. The model gains extra support 2 and skirmisher. In addition, enemy models that are not immune to the effects of fear in units. Enemy models that are not immune to the effects of fear in units in base contact with one or more models with Corsair Raiders suffer -1 discipline. So fear without a fear check, essentially, assuming you're not already immune to fear, which is fine. It's cool. Yeah. Again, it should be separate units probably, but oh well. You can give them repeater handbows, which is quite funky, and you can also give them Vanguard. Characters joined to this unit also gain Vanguard. That's cool. We like that. Can you join units with the Ocean Terror? Because then you can give that Vanguard as well. Towering Presence. No, you can't. That's a shame. But, and then the Fleet Pegasus also has Vanguard as well, so no shenanigans. I saw you thinking of it. Wasn't me at all. You can give the unit full standard, full command and a standard and stuff. Sea Wolves are quite literally beasts. I like that. That's cool. So Coastal Predator, insignificant, Vanguard 6 inches, 2 strength 4 attacks, res 4, defense 3. They get an armor save and they've got poison. Spicy. I like that. And that's the end of core. Yeah, split these into 2 units. I don't know why they're the same thing. That's a shame. In special, Dread Mariners. What are these? So these are going to be copying either Obsidian Guard or the other one, Judicators. Which is it? The answer is a mix of both. So they get the defense, offense, and agility of a Judicator, and they get the attacks, strength, and AP of an Obsidian Guard, and then they get the discipline of an Obsidian Guard. They wear light armor and sea serpent's hide, which is definitely not just heavy armor. And then they get fearless, scoring, and strider water terrain. You can take tons of them. Only 20 models in a unit though, which is quite small. So you can't really hoard up with these guys, which is interesting. But you can give them Vanguard. Funky. Thunder Riders. What? Oh, I see. Okay. They're Pegasus Knights. That's interesting. It's a unit of Pegasus. Yeah. So skirmishes, Vanguard, light troops, fly 816, hard target, not a lot of armor, res 4, and then the rider gains devastating charge +1 attack, lightning reflexes, ruthless efficiency, light lance, repeater handbow. These are quite cool. Barbed nets you can give the unit as well. That's quite funky. And that's the first time we've seen Pegasus in a unit outside of KOE ever. I mean, you know, presumably there wasn't something back in like 4th or 3rd or 2nd edition, but whatever. So yeah, that's quite cool. Salt veterans. Okay. These guys have something called Captain's Orders. At step 8 of the pre-game sequence after spell selection, the owner must choose which of the following options and apply choose one of the following options and apply all its effects to models with captain's orders in the army. Give no quarter, the model gains scoring, and loot and pillage, the model gains light troops. So this should probably have a specification for capture the flags, otherwise you can just hide this unit and stop it counting towards that, because that would be daft, and you can't do that with centaurs, so you shouldn't be able to do this with this. But yeah, that's quite cool. Like if you need an extra scoring unit. I guess it's all models, so if you've got 2 units then you can't have one scoring and one not be scoring, so that's good at least. So you know, you can't confuzzle people with that. They come with barbed nets as standard. They've got the same stat line as Dread Mariners, so why wouldn't you just fold the 2 units in? That would be so much simpler. It's because they're different units. Fear, Scout, Strider, Light Armor, Sea Serpent's Hide, Barbed Nets, Lightning Reflexes, Ruthless Efficiency, and Halberds. That's a funky unit, and then you can give these guys repeater hambos as well. And there doesn't seem to be a cap for your shooting as well, so you can fill this list with shooting, just to the brim. That's very cool. No standards on these guys. Yeah, I like that. Maybe not the name, but yeah. Other than that, and you know, put a specification in here that yes, you can't hide these guys if you're playing flags. You naughty boy. Otherwise, really cool. Fleet Menagerie. What do we reckon? Tritons or Tritons? Probably Tritons, right?
Triton.
That's American, that's not helpful.
Triton.
Yeah, Triton. Cool. So these are Tritons, as told to us by Google. They are presumably, what are they? Gorgons with extra steps. So they don't get the Gorgon glare, but they've got this Gorgon stat line, and they can choose the weapons for it, and then they've got they're a wizard conclave. So funky magic in here. You can take the hereditary spell, Will of the Wisp, Chilling Howl, and Fate's Judgment. Those are really cool spells. Will of the Wisp is great. Chilling Howl is fantastic if you're playing against something shooting, because you've got a very soft army here. Tempest of the Storm Witch to give you another movement spell, and Fate's Judgment is great if you come up against something that doesn't want to play against it, which is cool. And then Siren Songs, combat reform tests and march tests of enemy units within 8 inches of one or more models with Siren Song suffer -2 discipline. Cool. So it's like a double musician, I guess. You could have maybe given it Deafening Clangor instead, but this is cool too. I like that. And maybe it doesn't make so much sense that it makes as much noise as a giant for Ogre Khans. Yeah, cool. Fairly limited on the number of models you can take, but less so than the Gorgons, which is cool. Very expensive. Why are they so much more expensive? They come with Coastal Predator, which is pretty huge, and I mean you have to pay for the Wizard Conclave, and they lose Petrifying Stare. That's very harshly priced, I think, compared to the Gorgons. Yeah, I don't know why that's gone up, what, 70-ish points? That's brutal. Yeah, looks cool though, and the extra models are cheaper. Oh, I see. There are 2 of them at the start of the unit, not 1. Right. That's why that's so much more expensive. They're not light troops either, which is a little bit awkward, especially considering you can't buy them a musician. But maybe that's fine. Don't know. Krakens. So you can take 3 Krakens, and Terrors of the Deep counts towards that as well. So be mindful of that, I suppose. Where's the Kraken? Presumably these are the same. You can take an additional Colossal Kraken down here as well, 0-1 per army. I wonder if that... I wonder if you can take... because rules as written, a Colossal Kraken by itself is not a Kraken with the Colossal Kraken upgrade. I wonder if it's intended to be the same thing, and you can only take, you know, a big boy kraken with your dread captain riding it and a pair of little baby krakens, or whether you can and are supposed to be able to take a colossal kraken and a kraken with colossal kraken, and then I guess as well a baby kraken as well. So I don't know. Another clarification in there needed, potentially done before release, that I won't see and you guys will be. Don't know. Otherwise, identical to a regular Dread Elf kraken. Avatar of Harag. This is an entirely new thing and looks like a giant-esque type thing. It's Advanced 6, March 14, Discipline 9, which is huge for a giant monster. It's a large beast, 50 by 75, so it's not tremendously huge. It's got Coastal Predator, Fear, Fearless, Omen of the Dreadfleet, Special Ambush, Water Terrain. Ooh, so you can ambush it out of your boy with his pocket water. That's cool. Supernal, Terrors of the Deep, so he counts towards your cap. Is this Fleet Menagerie? Okay, so they've got a Fleet Menagerie, and also you can only take 0 to 3 of them, which I guess it makes sense. You could probably squeeze like 4 of them into this otherwise. Supernal, Terrors of the Deep. Weirdly doesn't cause terror, where the Ocean Terror does. I guess this thing sounds like it should cause terror. It looks spooky. Stat line of 5 with an Aegis 5+, Fortitude 5+, and an armor save 5+. one way or another, you're getting that 5+ armor save, or that 5+ save. Sorry. Stat line of 5 offensively as well, but with AP 3, hatred against non-supernals and toxic scum. Ooh. So at initiative step 10, all units, friend and foe, engaged in the same combat as the model suffer d6+1 hits with toxic attacks. That's pretty brutal. All other units engaged in the same combat as the model. So even if you tag it onto the side of a combat that's, you know, snaking off with several other units all jigsawed together and Tetrised and so on, all of them, friend and foe, will take d6+1 hits with toxic attacks. That's pretty savage. Especially if it's hitting, especially considering it's hitting your own guys as well. I guess that counts towards combat res as well, right? Presumably. I don't see that why it wouldn't, because it's an attack attribute. Wow, savage. I don't know why that's not just d6+1 grinds, but. I suppose you'd have to add another model part for that, I guess. Omen of the Dreadfleet. After determining deployment zones at the end of Step 6 of the pre-game sequence, you may choose a single field, ruins, or forest terrain that becomes water terrain. In addition, while the model is on the battlefield, all water terrain features on the battlefield are considered dangerous terrain 1 for all models. Cool. So your Strider Water is going to come in very handy if you take an Avatar of Harag, and it's very bad for everybody else, especially if you, especially if there is water on the terrain, on the table already, and then you bring your pocket water, and then you turn one of the not water terrains into water. Cool. That looks brutal. The Toxic Scum in particular is savage. It's an interesting model, very unlike a lot of other stuff. And oh, look at that, we've got a little KOE nod in there. Bellissimo. Sea Fog Leviathan. How is this different to a Mist Leviathan? The answer is it's not. I think it's got something called Advancing Gloom instead of Under the Cover of Mists. Enemy units within 8 inches of one or more Sea Fog Leviathan suffer -1 to hit for shooting attacks. In addition, the duration of... Oh, I see. It's different because it extends your... Ooh. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty huge. So a Sea Fog Leviathan is massive. I don't know why you'd ever take 2. 2 seems a bit naff. It's, you know, depends on how bad you want the advancing bloom, really, I guess. But it does also count towards your Terrors of the Deep, which takes back the number of Krakens you can have. Think of all the Krakens you could be putting in the list instead. But yes, it does extend your Shrouded by Mist, which is your army-wide special rule, to the second turn, which is where it's going to really start mattering for things, especially for the charges, which is quite cool. Yeah, and I imagine with that being a bit of fluff there, that be the end of the Dreadfleet supplement. Thank you for joining me on that. Hopefully it was interesting. It looks quite funky. Hopefully we'll see an army of someone playing it someday. Yeah. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.